Hey guys, Bicebump here, bringing you this 10.1 Frost Death Knight Mythic Plus guide. This will cover talents, rotation, gear, as well as just general gameplay when it comes to the Frost Death Knight and Mythic Plus. Before I get into that though, let's talk about the viability. So how viable is the Frost Death Knight Mythic Plus, right? How much damage do we do, and kind of where do we sit in the meta? So I think the first thing I can say is that we do not lack in the damage department. I would say so. So I've been playing a couple 21s, 22s, whatever. I'm sure there are classes that will do better, but I have literally not been beaten by any classes so far. I think Survival Hunter's also looking really strong, but when you just come to raw damage, Frost TK just does really well. We are insane in like low target cleave. So 3 target cleave, you go in the pool, you can burst 400k, right? And we scale, you know, relatively well in big AoE as well. We have Frostwind's Fury. That's going to be insane in those big, juicy pools. And, you know, I finished dungeons around 150k to 175k. I think that's the general range. And then lower if it kind of, you know, everything gets messed up. But that's what you can expect. Unfortunately, you know, as is with the DK class in general, we lack the group utility that would make us truly competitive, right? We do not have any kind of dispel. We kind of lack stuns generally. We have no AoE stun. We have Frostworm, right? But not sure if that counts really. We can't deal with a lot of the effects. I think they changed it though, like the Incorporeal, you know, the guys that need to CC. Next time they come around, I think Control Undead would work on them, which is good for Frost DK. Awful for Unholy, because Control them, you have to dismiss your own pet, which is going to be terrible. But anyway, we do have something to deal with that. But we do not have a group buff. We don't have Bloodlust. There's so many things that other classes bring, which means that Frost TK is generally like the +1 class. So, or +1 spec. So once you've got everything else sorted, right, you have the spells you need, you have the utility, you have Bloodlust, then you can pick up a Frost TK. And that's why Frost TK just struggles when it comes to being part of the true meta. Still really tanky, so can't die, but overall, that's what it is. Anyway, I've been playing a couple of keys now with my two-hand obliteration Frost TK, and it feels fun. Sure, they can make it better, like having cleave attached definitely K is not ideal, but I honestly don't feel like it's that hampering. It's kind of fine. I know some people dislike it heavily, but I don't think it's too bad. It's fun to play. I have a weak aura that, you know, does big sounds whenever I do big hits, so I do like those crits. Anyway, into the real kind of guide portion here. So let's talk about talents. So I'm running the two-handed obliteration setup here. Got it up on the screen over there. This is a really standard build. We do have a couple choices you can make here, depending on what you what you want to get out of your Frost DK in a dungeon. Specifically, the talent point I currently have in Absolute Zero can be reallocated. Most often that goes into a second Enduring Strength spot. This gives you a little bit more single target and works well when the pools are a bit longer. Shorter pools, Absolute Zero is definitely going to be better, but the longer the pools get, the more value you will get from that Enduring Strength point. Furthermore, there's also a build you can run where you don't pick up Glacial Advance and put that into Endurance Strength instead. This is quite a significant like overall damage loss, but it does bring you a lot more single targets. So if you feel like, you know, I don't really need that AoE, I want a bit quicker pillar windows, like what you get from hitting Frost Strike, because you get Ice Cap reduction, right? That's definitely an option. But other than that, I don't think there's that much in the Spectre. As I said, reallocating Absolute Zero or Glacial Advance into Enduring Strength, that's kind of where your choice lies. I think it'd be great if you could, you know, put it in Chill Streak, but I don't know. I haven't found it to be that good, the ones I've tried it. But I haven't, you know, especially now with a 4-set, right? Synergizes really well with Frostwind's Fury. You don't really want to pick away from that. Anyway, class tree. What's going on here? What can we change? So I think the primary choice comes at the bottom part of the tree. So essentially, it's whether or not you pick up Will of the Necropolis. Willow Necropolis is a really solid defensive tool. Like, it just makes you much more tanky. You can think about it as essentially having 16% more max health. That's what happens. So Willow Necropolis, something that deals 115% of your maximum health, won't kill you, which is pretty insane. It often helps you if you fail, kind of thing. You don't generally need it, but I like having that tankiness. The thing is that picking that up is a DPS downgrade, because you have essentially two ways of doing it. Either you skip Death's Echo and you pick up Willow Necropolis and Insidious Chill, or you skip Unholy Bond, so you can actually do pick up Death's Echo, and then you have Willow Necropolis and Insidious Chill. Not sure which one of these I fancy the most. Having that secondary FNK window is a strong upgrade in AoE, especially, you know, if you have a really big burst window, you pop it down after your first one, you have endurance strength rolling, get a couple more big uplifts out. It's really good in those scenarios. So I think, honestly, when I pick up Willow Necropolis, I actually sacrifice that Unholy Bond, which is still 3%-ish downgrade, so it's not something you should do lightly, but definitely something to consider. In the rest of the tree, I'm doing like full defensive setup here, so improved Death Strike, we pick up Permafrost, right? Everything to make us more tanky generally. You can pick away from this. For instance, you might want to pick up Asphyxiate. That can be useful, you know, if you need that single target stun. Other than that, you know, there's not that much to change around. You can see I have the Lichborn defensive as well. You could do the Deafening Caseload, but again, you lose a defensive, which can be really useful. So it's a bit tricky. There is quite a lot of movement to do here. You can actually go less defensive, but the thing is that it just feels great to be the tankiest class in the game, and I don't like personally to pick away from it. All right. You might think, you know, where's Breath in all this, right? Isn't that viable in Mythic Plus? I strongly believe that 200 Blit is just flat out better. It just does well in all situations. Breath kind of needs the group to play around. By the way, I'm going to skip this because we forgot to release one of the Tuscans. Tuscar, sorry. Alright, let's go like that. Right. I don't think Breath is good. As in, it requires too many kind of checkboxes to actually become useful. All right, let's talk about some gearing and stats and that kind of thing. So let's start with stats. What are you looking at? So you can probably notice that what I'm currently running is a significant amount of haste mastery. It's because when I made this video, I hadn't bothered making a like frost specific set. So this is just my unholy stats. I would say the general idea is to go a bit higher than 25% haste. So 26 to 27. We do this because in single target, you get one more extra GCD in your pillar window if you have 25% haste. So a little bit higher to give you some leeway, and then we kind of sit there. After that point, haste doesn't really do that much for us. So we then want to put stats into crit and mastery, and roughly equal amounts is where I found it to be kind of good. So when I have my stats up properly, I can put up a picture here. This is what I'm running now. You essentially want 4k of haste, mastery, and crit, and then you're good to go, right? You obviously don't want to drop eye level for this, but I feel like now that we have the upgrade system, you can very easily swap out your kind of, you can change around your stats, you know, without much issue, because you probably have played some Mythic Plus, you have lots of different necks, rings, whatever. So it makes it much easier to actually wiggle them around without dropping eye level. In the end, right, I recommend using Dungeon Slice to sim yourself. That's a relatively good mix of single target and AoE. It does go a little bit more single target oriented, but I think that's good because single target is actually very useful in Mythic Plus. Just sim yourself and figure out what's best for you in your scenario. When it comes to trinkets, I think the general setup is to do Vial of Animated Blood as one of your trinkets. This is a really good trinket for us because the Pillar Frost windows generally come in a 45-second interval. That's like kind of where you end up with Ice Cap. And you obviously have Frostwind's Fury with absolute 0 coming every 1.5 minutes. So every 1.5 minutes you can do a pillar with Frostwind at the end with your Vial buffing it, and that's really good. So that's why I recommend that trinket. Secondary trinket should be something passive with lots of stats. We have the class trinket from Netharian, great one. We have Ominous, solid. We have, I'm actually running the Anvil here, which also works well. It's really good if you can just chain pull the entire dungeon, so you can just hold it at 5 stacks. Generally doesn't happen, but still a solid amount of damage and helps with your single target throughput. But that's kind of the idea, right? Dragon Scale, also solid. Just something passive that gives you stats and might have some damage proc, you know. Doesn't matter that much. Alright, that's the stats. When it comes to enchants, you know, there's not much to cover there. If you're running high mythic class, consider putting on Avoidance instead of like the normal speed ones that I use. But, you know, just use the usual kind of set. It's not that complicated. For the weapon, always Rune of Fallen Crusader, much stronger than any other alternative. And for the vial, we want to use Corrupting Rage. That crit is really useful. Essentially, if you usually play Unholy, you won't have that much crit on your gear, so getting Vial to ump your crit is very useful. And it has like 92% uptime in a key, so it's really a lot of stats overall, right? Which is why we use it. The downside is not that steep, so I wouldn't really put that into my evaluation. Right, so that's hopefully everything that is outside of the actual rotation. So let's cover Frost DK Mythic class. How do you actually execute it to maximize your DPS? And I would say that 90% of playing Frost DK properly in Mythic class is executing your Pillar Frost window properly. Like, this is where the majority of the damage comes from. Obliterate with Cleaving Strikes hits 3 targets, and you will be hitting like 200, 300k hits that are just insane. You know, every second GTD, 900k, 900k, 900k. You imagine that really adds up over time. So let's talk about how do you execute it properly. Rule number 1, when you're in your pillar window, you don't want to be pressing anything else that isn't either generating a killing machine or consuming it, right? So Remorseless Winter, press that before pillar. It can be worthwhile to actually delay pillar. I would do it like 2-3 seconds just to make sure that you actually press Remorseless Winter and then go into your pillar. Same thing with Abomination Limb. That should come before your pillar window. Very important. You don't want to waste GCDs in your pillar window because they are so incredibly valuable. Okay. There's 2 other spells we're going to use in our pillar window. It's going to be Frostwind's Fury and Death Decay. So let's talk about where those are allocated. Death Decay should come in 2 seconds after you press the pillar. This is generally 2 GCDs after. I will discuss this in more detail, but I'm currently playing it where I press pillar, I then generate 2 stacks of Killing Machine. To be honest, this can actually happen after 1 GCD if you get an actual Killing Machine proc, but generally I do 2 stack Killing Machine, then I do Death Decay. I do this so that my final Killing Machine consumption at the end of my pillar window will be a cleave. If you pop down Death Decay too early, this might not happen, right? Death Decay is going to finish before the end of pillar, and you might actually end up having a 300k crit, which doesn't cleave, which is insane damage loss. The caveat here is that with Frostwind's Fury, that's supposed to come at the end of pillar. However, when I play it, I'm a bit afraid to use it too late because when it travels, if you lose pillar, it's going to lose the buff as well. So I do pop it like a little bit before, maybe the second to last GCD if I can afford it, which means that using Death Decay late is actually more valuable. Anyway, all right, sorry, let's zoom out a little bit. You pop down your pillar. What is the goal? Well, you want to either generate the Killing Machine proc or consume it every GCD, right? Nothing else. So you're going to use Glacial Advance or Howling Blast with Rhyme procs to generate the Killing Machines and then just Obliterate to consume them. When it comes to priority of Glacial Advance versus Rhyme procs, you generally always prioritize Rhyme unless you need to refresh your Unleashed Frenzy buff. That's the vibe. There is a very specific scenario. So if you're in a big pool with like 10 targets, your Remorseless Winter is not ticking, it's actually worthwhile to press Glacial Advance over Rhyme Proc just for the raw damage. But that pretty much never happens. So essentially, the only scenario where you press Glacial Advance is to refresh your Unleash Frenzy, or if you can't hit a Rhyme, right? That's how it works out. Let's summarize. So what do? Well, you press a pillar, and then you immediately follow up by Howling Blast or Glacial Advance to generate Killing Machine proc. You then press You then press Howling Blast Rhyme again to generate your second one. You then pop Definition K, right? And then you're gonna hit Obliterate to consume those Killing Machine procs and just cleave an insane amount. Right? When you can't hit Obliterate, you generate a new proc with Glacial Advance or Remind, and then you go Obliterate. That's how it kind of works. I'm sure you can follow. You see me. I do this, 100 times in a key, and you will be able to tell. Okay, this is what happens every time. So that's your Deafening K window. What happens afterwards? So ideally, once your pillar finishes, you want to pop down the second Deafening K. It depends on how your charges look like. You don't want to use a charger Deafening K and not have one for the next one. But since we're running Death's Echo, they're going to recharge over time. There's going to be some downtime, which means that sometimes you will have a secondary Deafening K window available to you. You want to pop that immediately after your first one. This is to benefit from Unleash Frenzy. And if you're using Frost Fury, you're going to also have the Force-Set buff to benefit from. This means that actually the Obliterates after your Pillar Frost window, they might not be 300Ks, but it can definitely go to 200K with those buffs, right? That's how we do it. And then in between your Deafening K windows, what you're doing is essentially hitting Obliterate to generate Runic Power and triggering Rhyme procs. You hitting Glacial Advance to consume your Runic Power, and then you hit him Howling Blast to consume your Rhyme procs. It's not that complicated. And then, very importantly, you press Remorseless Winter on cooldown. I see that sometimes people don't use it on cooldown. It's a huge part of the overall damage, so optimizing it is really crucial. And then, you got the next Pillar Frost window, and everything repeats, right? Pillar, generate 2 Killing Machine, Deafening K, do the cleave. That's it. For Frost and Fury, as said, already covered it. You always come at the end of your pillar window to maximum benefit from that strength amp. Ideally, it would be the final GCD, but second to last is sometimes more safe. I like it second to last, even though it's not fully optimal, just so that you don't end up, losing the buff and sending it after. Cool. Let's cover Remorseless Winter and how we optimize that. So we have 2 buffs/debuffs we need to consider here: Gathering Storm and Everfrost. Gathering Storm, whenever you spend runes while Remorseless Winter is up, it increases the duration of Remorseless Winter by 0.5 seconds per rune and increases damage. It can stack up to 10 times. The thing is, if you spend enough runes, you can actually get Remorseless Winter back up when there's already 1 rolling, and you can refresh it, and you will refresh it at 10 stacks. This is a huge upgrade to do in AoE, because essentially you ramp up your Remorseless Winter, and then you can press it again, then you can refresh its duration, so you get just a very, very long max stack Remorseless Winter. It's going to deal so much damage. This generally is doable when you have your Empowered Rune weapon up. You have enough haste, bloodlust, that kind of thing. And you can play around it by, after your pillar window ends, right, when you don't care about this generating consuming killing machines anymore, you can prioritize pressing Obliterate to keep that Remorseless Winter going, right? By the way, this ad, you can stand on the perimeter of your circle and still hit him. You don't need to do that kind of strafing added. Everfrost is a debuff that you put on your targets that makes them take increased damage from Remorseless Winter. Much easier to keep up. If you just press Remorseless Winter on cooldown, you essentially will get it. No extra play required. Alright, final topic, Empowered Rune weapon. I haven't covered this yet. It should be used up to 7 seconds before your pillar comes back up. It can even be used like earlier because you have ice cap, which is going to reduce it further. So sometimes you can use it like 10 seconds before your pillar comes up and still get maximum overlap. But that's kind of it. Save it for pillar. You want it with your pillars. That's it. So what happens in single target? In AoE, you know, we have Obliterate, Howling Blast, and Glacial Advance, sorry. That's what we spend. In single target, we just replace Glacial Advance with Frost Strike and then play it almost exactly the same. Your pillar windows will look slightly differently because we don't Deafening K here. So we're just going to skip that part. And then you're just going to do the normal, you know, generate killing machines, consume them. Frost and Fury, slightly different here. So we actually want to wait until after our pillar window finishes before we press it. So you don't want to buff it with pillar actually. This is due to the fact that in single target, Frost and Fury doesn't deal enough damage to justify spending that GCD on it. It's better to either consume a killing machine proc or generate one. It just does more damage. Furthermore, waiting until after pillar means that you get a longer 4-set debuff window, right? Increase your crit damage. You send one automatically with pillar. So waiting until pillar's over and send another one, you get more overall debuff duration. When it comes to Trinket, just macro that to your pillar and try to make it the sort of Frost and Fury synergize with it every time. I fail with this all the time, but you know, it is what it is. Cool, so that's the rotation. Hopefully that was covered in sufficient detail. One more thing to cover, sorry. So I said generate 2 killing machine procs before hitting down Deafening K. This is not like an obvious thing to do. You can also go for a single killing machine and then Deafening K, specifically in your Frost and Fury pillars. So if you know you have Frost and Fury already and you're going to spend your final GCD on it, there's no reason to actually pop down Deafening K so you get that end of pillar overlap, because that's going to be spent on Frost and Fury anyway. So in those scenarios, it can be worthwhile to just pop it down earlier. Furthermore, the negative aspect of doing double killing machine is that it increases the probability of actually wasting a killing machine proc. You have a couple of GCDs there, by the way, stupid of me, don't stand next to dogs, they will murder you. Anyway, we have 3 GCDs that we spend on not hitting Obliterate, and the probability of actually getting a natural killing machine proc there is quite high. So doing that double killing machine can be a waste. Furthermore, if you go into a pool completely out of resources, so 0 runic power, you actually don't have enough runic power to do a Howling Blast with Rime and then Glacial Advance. I've been trying doing like Howling Blast with Rime and then a naked Howling Blast, but I'm also very hesitant if this is actually an upgrade. I don't know. I've been trying it out. Do give it a go, but I don't think that's an upgrade actually. So probably not ideal. All right. Okay. I'm sure I will come up with some other topic I'm going to want to discuss after this point in the video. But the idea is just now to do commentary of the run you see. So I'm just going to talk you through my current thoughts, or what I think I'm thinking, right? And discuss the cooldown usage, the rotation, stuff like that. So if you just came here for the guide portion, feel free to skip to the end where I look at the breakdown, things like that. Otherwise, you know, join me into watching this banger 21 Brackenhide, am I right? We're currently sitting at 190k overall. Can definitely be better. I've seen people closing on to 190 like after dungeons finish, so I can definitely improve myself here. Need to think about what I can do, but maybe, you know, changing my stats a little bit, thinking about what I can do better with my gameplay, for instance, be better timing my Frostworm with my vials, that kind of thing. We can look at my CDs here. So I have Pillar coming up, I have Remorse Winter as well, and I have Vial in 5 seconds. So my next cooldown window will definitely be a Vial one. So there we go. I initiate. Alright, these are going to die very quickly. I think at this point, I'm saving Vial because I see that this is dying so quickly. I actually don't need to pop it. Oh, that was not good. Right, here's a misplay, right? I didn't use Vial, but still committing my Frostworm. So now I desync them. Not good enough biceps. Anyway, you can see here that my pillar windows are really quite frequent. So I got one again in 10 seconds. Even though this is mid-pull, I'm still going to commit it. I have a power rune weapon, I'm going to use that a couple seconds beforehand. You can see now, I have my pillar ready, but I use my remorses first, go into my pillar window, do the double kill machine, and then I go into my oblit weaving. So consume, generate, double consume when you get a natural proc. That's how we do it. When you can end up starving in your oblit windows, right? It does happen, and it's just unlucky. Generally, you will have a lot of resources available to you, so like majority of the time, it's going to be fine. But sometimes you will end up sitting there having double killing machine and not being able to spend it. At that point, just keep hitting Glacial Advance and Rhyme, because both of those can proc your runes to recharge, which allows you to you know, go for a couple more killing machines. You can see there, I had killing machine but couldn't consume it, so I go Glacial Advance and hope that I get a proc so I can then consume my killing machines I have banked up. You can see that previous choice I did where I desynced my Vial is now having a detrimental effect, because Vial's coming up in 15 seconds and I just committed a Frostworm without it. So do try and pay careful attention. Every time you use Vial, right, that has exact same CD as Frostworm, you should be able to Frostworm as well. And you should aim to do so. Alright, this guy's dying soon, but I still commit a pillar window. Probably not worthwhile, to be honest, because I wasted like half of it. So could have waited with it. Right, those ads you need to dispel or heal. You can actually heal them as Frost DK using Death Cult. There you go. Already at the end of the dungeon? Mate, I've been chatting far too much. Usually when I do these videos, I end up having like 15-20 minutes of commentary. Now I had like 3 packs and then was, time for the end. You can see a single target boss here, though. So we have Pillar and 10, we have important primary weapon, we're going to use that. Fun fact, like in Raid, when you have double primary weapon, you delay your primary burst window to the second Pillar Frost, because that's when you have Unleashed Frenzy stacked up fully, so it's actually stronger. You can see here, same kind of deal. And now we see the Frostworm. Where is it? I'm probably saving it for... I wanted to see if Frostworm worked on this totem. It doesn't. Too bad. Anyway, up here you have my breakdowns. It's bad quality because I didn't save this in my details. I'm sorry. I think we'll see if post-production biceps can make some magic happen, but probably not. We've got pillar window. We're going to use our... we are going to try... So this being a totem, you can cleave off it, but you can't cleave to it. So this means that saving my pillar windows for it is actually really good value, because I can then walk to it, I can have that as my primary target, hit obliterate, and it will cleave on the boss. It doesn't work if you hit the boss as your primary target, but if you hit the totem first, same with explosive, you can actually get the cleave. So that's something good to think about. Breakdown wise, we have our, obliterate being by far the biggest portion of our damage, but then we have frostworms. That's both from the talent as well as the ones sent off with pillar. And then we have our Monsters Winter, Glacial Advance, and I think a little bit of Avalanche in there. I think that should cover them all. I don't have it off right now, so I might miss something, but that's generally where we get it from. We are gonna time this quite easily, no problem at all actually. And I think that's partly because Frost DK can put out just so much damage. I will end up at 170k overall. I'm still chasing that 200k overall. I don't know. I think I need to practice a bit more, get a bit better gear, potentially move around my stats a little bit, and then just find a high key with a solid tank, and then we might actually hit it. I wonder, it's either Notharis or Brackneye where it's going to happen, but we'll see. When I get to 200k, I will definitely make a video, because it makes such a lovely thumbnail, doesn't it? This guy, he finishes at 5% biceps, not 10, so shouldn't have been targeting him that heavily. It's fine though, we are not at the risk of dying here. Now we can definitely kill him. Anyway, that's the Frost TK Myth Plus guide. We are absolutely blasting, and I hope you can, take something away from this video and put it into practice and do some insane damage. Right, thank you very much for watching. Leave a comment down below. Do consider subscribing. I'm nearly at 25k, so let's get there, right? Up for download. I'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you very much for watching. Bye bye.